Karachi was not like it is now, right? Karachi was a relatively, I mean, it's still a cosmopolitan city, but it was a very sort of liberal city. It was a very forward-thinking city. In terms of hotels, I mean, all the discos, clubs, nightclubs, mostly were in hotels, not exclusively, but mostly. One of the more popular ones was in my father, our family hotel, Metropole, which was the Samar. And I remember going to the Samar when I was a kid. Samar closed down in '78. So I remember, like, you know, there was regular bands that would come. I mean, local bands, but also foreign bands that would come and tour, foreign singers that would come and tour. My mamu, who is a huge jazz fanatic, tells me about the time that Oscar Peterson came to Karachi, famous jazz great, and performed concerts in Karachi. So Samar, talk of the town, which was, if I'm not mistaken, where the Movenpick currently is. There used to be a different hotel there. The Supper Club, the Nasreen Room, which still exists, but not in the form that it existed back then. I never remember being bored as a kid. I remember that we were always doing things, and entertainment existed in many different forms, right? So, you know, going crabbing was entertainment. And, you know, you went crabbing, but you actually caught crabs, and you cooked them on the boat and you ate them on the boat, unlike today where they bring the crabs with you because you can't catch anything in the damn harbor, right? Or going to the beach and spending 4, 5, 6 days at the beach, 6 nights at the beach, which nobody would do today because it's probably too dangerous to do that. But, you know, we would go. My cousins and I, we would just go spend 6, you know, over Eid. If there was a 4, 5, 6 day Eid break, we would spend the whole day, and you know, the drivers would bring lunch khana every day in the morning and evening and night. I mean, sort of lunch and dinner every day, so the khana was fresh. We didn't, and they would. It wasn't really none of this was a big deal when I was a kid, right? You know, we would just do these things. People used to go by the busloads to the beach on the weekends, and I think they still do, but they used to swim, and they used to swim not in completely closed shalwar kameez. They used to have bathing suits, and they used to get into their bathing suits and go swimming, right? I mean, there was no restriction on dress. There was no, I mean, women had a kind of freedom of movement in Karachi especially, but certainly Karachi was a really cosmopolitan, very liberal, very forward-thinking, forward-looking city. My grandmother's brother, so my dad's mamu, was actually a booker. So what he would do is he would book acts, and international acts, for the second level. So the hotels like the Bristol Hotel, the ones in Southern. He was one of the people who booked belly dancers from Egypt and from Lebanon and brought them to Karachi, and then they, you know, performed. And I mean, those were sort of the seedier level of hotels, but they were always packed. They always had entertainment. They always had bands, local bands, probably, and they always had one act that came from the Middle East, and it was always usually a belly dancer. You know, and you know, and if you've seen the ads in the old newspapers, if you go and look at Dawn or even the old evening newspapers like Daily News or Leader or those things, which Star, I don't think they exist anymore. Used to be these big, you know, half-page ads with the, you know, with the belly, like you had a little stud in the belly, and you know, that was really a common thing. The discos all served alcohol, all were packed always. They were open 6 nights a week, if I'm not mistaken. They were closed. And then Sundays, the Samar used to have a big Sunday brunch. So without, the band was there, but there was no real dancing or anything. There would just be a Sunday brunch. And there was also things to do immediately outside Karachi, which today you would not think of as outside Karachi, but we thought of it as outside. So Malir was not Karachi. Malir was outside Karachi because it was beyond the airport, right? And my grandfather had built, the first hotel my grandfather built was in Malir in the 1930s, late 30s, 40s, and it became a weekend resort. So people used to go to Malir to spend the weekend at this weekend resort and then come back. My grandfather had farms, had a fruit farm and a chicken farm out in Malir. And so during World War II, a company of US soldiers were bivouacked in Karachi. They were stationed here, and they didn't have anywhere to stay, really. So they were staying out by the chicken farm and the chiku farms of my grandfather, the enterprising man that he was, built a number of cottages for the soldiers, and that eventually became the Grand Hotel over here. And nightclubs were really about, it wasn't just, dinner and dance. Wasn't just dancing, right? There were a band. It was dinner. There were really well prepared meals by foreign chefs, and with alcohol, obviously. But it was also a place for people to socialize and to get together and to have, people to friends outside of their own homes. Back then, Sadr was, would you believe? Sadr was where the boutiques were. Sadr was where, fashionable shopping happened. Where did men go to have their suits made? You don't know this. Musaji. Musaji was the high-end tailor of Karachi. Which is of course not true anymore. And where did women go and have their clothing made and buy fabric from? The high-end fabric shop of Karachi, Sanaullah, in Sadr, the Sadr wala dukan. So, and Sadr was a place where wealthy people went shopping, because that's where those stores were. They're not, the silver store, why are all the jewelry stores in Sadr? Because that's where the wealthy people went shopping, right, in the season. The movies were cheap. Going to a movie, Nishat, Capri, Bambino, or there was Star, Lyric. So, and movies were a big part of entertainment in Karachi back then. There were, I think, 142 movie theaters in Karachi.